come in, take me down, shake me out, give me a brain that I might know you better. Take me down, shake me out, give me a brain that I might know you better. Hanging in the sun, waiting for the rain.
Welcome to Deterioration 2019. Deterioration.
Safe enough to not let go, scared enough to not release, open up to drink the wind. You tear me up when you come in. Take me down, shake me out, give me a heart that I might love you better. Take me down, shake me out, give me a heart that I might love you better.
Welcome to Deterioration 2019. Now, welcome to episode 45. Is there any woman in Canberra say she has ever makes me happier than this woman here? They have all lacked the skills and finesse required for the job. Look at her. Look. It's as good as it gets. I'm happy. She's the best. Joe is the best. Seems that the previous app isn't working. I was just saying that the amongst the inspiring minds that I've known to have encountered throughout life, I would say they are more inspirational than Roger Toll and Gary Cairns combined with Roger's chode wedged into Gary's arse on the lawns of Parliament House, waving a capital chemist flag. My bus is here. Okay. Where was I? So yeah, if in that transcript, then in Mark's Gospel, Jesus' reply to the accusatory question, "Are you the King of the Jews?" is, "Well, you said it," not, "Well, you've asked me." So we don't know that he comprehended the question. The question could have come across in an aggressive voice and felt like a statement or a command or a direct order. Could have been condescending. He could have not related to the... Obviously, the opposition to citizens asking questions being a sort of fascist element fueled by religion, the Freemasonry religion, at the top of capital chemist. Once they get into that, they have defied the pharmacist code of ethics. So really, my only choice was to be opposed to them or wind up guilty of something. The annoying thing about being studied by people, particularly people you used to work for, is that you may have already wanted to have them charged with various things, so any kind of lesson or a piece of advice they think that they might have for you is automatically of no value. You know, the smartest thing that they have to tell you will actually make you feel worse than you felt the moment they intervened, when you just wanted your solitude respected. Midday, June 29th, 2019. I'm at Flatheads again because they have good sausage rolls. And then I'll go back to tweak on the channel because some episodes need to be retweaked. But yeah, if you ever are lucky enough to get fired from Capital Chemist, don't accept their next invite to return. Just cut your losses. It's not a bad place to be fired from. Just on the bus now, and I love the sign, drugs and driving, a killer combination. I was like, finally they're making a nice sign, because drive very well. Drivers I've known to drive on drugs. Extra cautious. It's a great combination, a killer combination. Finally the road sign people are thinking of us. It's nice to know. No one really tends to use symbolic language as a claim to submit for an official record concerning an account of something. You don't take the symbolic interpretations of Shakespeare and submit them as why the human race exists. So I'm not trying to say symbolic language is without its place. It most definitely is, but it's not used. We don't point to some hieroglyphics or some katakani or Japanese kanji symbols and say these symbols made the human race exist. So symbolic language absolutely has its place, but they're not accounts really. I think in a country this fake and stolen from Aborigines, aesthetics and cosmetics really don't. No one should assume anything about anyone on that basis. I'm not proud of the history of this country, and every time I think of heritage, I find myself spending 4 years pirating whatever I can. Search for a better education. In Capital Chemist, education, workplace, training and education, you get a nasal cyst from what they dictate about genes, the behavior of genes. Which turns out to be bullshit. Hustling. Hey, Atheos, and in memoriam, I would like to say that right, and apologies.
Long live the hit.
Come and tell us how smart you are and how you're going to save ourselves. Because yeah, the statement, you're a child of God, truly meant nothing to me in any kind of complimentary sense, from Elizabeth Breton. I could only think of pedophiles elsewhere knowing that they were, secure, not getting punished and brought to justice. And I would think what words would be needed to rip them out into exposure. Child of God. I'd rather have a punch in the face. And I've had a few since. Christians that are worried about hellfire, I've already gone there for you, as you can see from. Oh, the devil doesn't exist either. Oh, this must be a filter. But here, I'm in hell with my neighbour Tim.
Grill. Arr, arr.
And if you're in an apartment complex like this is the Brigalow years, so you got to make allies, and Tim is a good ally. See those sunnies? Not everyone wears sunnies that style. I know from the years with the Capital Group, one thing I couldn't rule out about Roger Till himself was that he was some form of theist and religious believer. That was a scary prospect then, because combined with the ruthless disposition that had instilled fright in so many of the other managing pharmacists, if he was also a religious believer, then he couldn't rule him out as like a religious motivated criminal. Which then he admitted to being. The Freemasons church is, to my knowledge, they consider themselves quite more insightful and enlightened than do the Christians. Now they do slam Jesus Christ. They slam him as an ideological martyr. But the interesting part about the Freemasons doing that is that, like, they essentially think they've got this edge over the veracity of the language of Christian theology and philosophy. And so when they do slam Jesus as some ideological martyr, they're saying things like, oh yeah, I would trust you to accurately quote the psychedelic camera. I do want to smash Roger Tall's face in. I paint my nails to distract myself from the compulsion for what he's done. I truly want to fist fight him, smash his face in. If he's willing, could be fun. I'll dress for it. I'll dress well. So I think what I am essentially saying is that any possible argument or criterion that Roger Tall and Gary Cairns could voice as to why they think they've established a conflict, once that methodology is used to apply critical thinking against the claims of the Freemason Church, will mean they would no longer want to be Freemasons on the grounds that it convolutes clear judgment. Otherwise, they would be imposing bullshit profiles and stipulating false conflicts exist amidst the minds of the citizenry. So I wonder which one it is. Keep your socks pulled up high, you two ass fuckers. I'm gonna make you a commercial. Soon. Roger Toll is the person who runs checks on you. When you work for him, makes it verbally clear to you that he has pretty much reasoned that if you watch the works of artists whose minds you enjoy, Roger will insist you are desiring homo sex with them on the basis of his checks, which I don't particularly understand. But yeah, realizing that he believes in the existence of Lucifer, I think he wishes that a devil could maybe have some homo action with him in his room or something, so he'd stop watching other people's fucking business. I'm calculating my payback for his Freemason-based faggotry.
There's hypocrisy in a way in the capital chemist of management as it's been hypocrisy has been celebrated in the minds of Roger especially, and accounts for a lot of his propensity not to give a group address. I suppose he won't want to.
I think given that I worked while using street drugs on weekends for a decade, it's certainly my experience that street drugs without records are more supplementary to good health than any formalized arrangement for substances. Formalized arrangements for substances are a shit house, and I will probably leave. I'd rather leave the country.
So I'd be interested in elaborate statements, justifications on their part concerning why they were interested in making a profile to say, mentally ill, psychosis from video, paranoid schizophrenia from video. I can't recall from school being taught what
with the sorts of misdescribing bluffs I think he makes. Could be just a mere set of sequences where, let's say, I disappear and you're distressed. Then you return home distressed and turn on the TV to sit down. Then you're distressed, thinking, oh, Luke's missing, where is he? So you turn on the TV and then you're distressed while watching the TV. So Roger says, you have video psychosis. That's more or less Roger being stupid. Criminal, perhaps, arguably. Their church has taught them, and it doesn't matter if they went to they're free in the Freemason church or something like the Christian church. Their church has taught them that the supernatural being, whatever, exists and is in relation to them a teacher. So they don't actually comprehend reading moral philosophy or philosophy of ethics as you being the person reading it. They have to actually, it seems they have to comprehend ethical lessons through an illustrative anthropomorphic narrative, like you would with the Little Red Hen, instead of just reading cooperation and teamwork and cooperating in teams and working in teams. You know, will yield great results. Instead, they have to have a little talking hen. They will scam and talk shit in other countries unless I think things change. Like they are constantly, they're not allowed to do what they do unless audited by federal rights lawyers, for example. They do not equivocate. They could never insist that someone has reached for them that hasn't, unless they have it in writing from that person to them that they've reached for them. That's an entirely religious. I'm sure they reach for a supernatural being that has never existed a single day of their lives, once a week at least, but that doesn't mean that they know when we're reaching for them. I have no idea why a man like Roger would be so determined to say that music clips and art video short films would be so morally prescriptive in nature, but the staff out to a conference and play how to host a murder. This the 80s Baberella.
He's stuffing her face.
Makes me happier than everyone in the territory and the surrounding New South Wales.
No, within
She makes
a
me.
radius. The ACT.
They can't calculate the radius yet. Scientists are working on it.
But Luke knows. Luke knows.
Luke's working out.
Luke knows.
Luke's working out the radius, but she has made me happier than I've ever known a woman could make someone happy since about 2018, and so you better respect or I'll egg your house. I will egg your fucking house. I'm so empty. Gary Cairns and Roger Toll sadly taught me that they can scam against the precepts of, or the stipulations of, both the Mental Health Act in the ACT and the Human Rights Act in the ACT by using some sort of radiological gimmick program they've got called, they call it a psychoactive prison. And so anyone who gets whacked with a psychoactive prison and reports it, they'll be judged to be hearing voices and therefore schizophrenic, and therefore they'll be administered the $1,000 per month antipsychotics, which is what Gary and Roger want. So they're scamming psychiatry, and it's ripping off Niels Bohr's ideas about quantum physics. So Gary and Roger's mental health profiles will tend to read as if they're a little bit more impressive than the believability of theistic religious belief systems, but not impressive enough that if you're an atheist or an unbeliever, a skeptic, you'll go, huh, that's fucking stupid. And it keeps getting deleted, so I have to jot it down again. But the profile is religious discrimination because they're only comprehending video in relation to me as if it were a teacher, and as if it was serving the role of an educator or a teacher, which means they're ignoring that I should interpret things on TV myself. So the reason they're doing that is that there's the supernatural beings they believe in. Even questions when questions won't even go in the direction of things like, for example, then what are the ideas you tried to get recruits for? For example, that sort of question won't occur. Maybe 5 years will be squandered before that question even occurs in his interrogations. Then what did you try to tell everyone else to believe? You know, things that he's already been guilty of, probably even through his business advertising. Well, yeah, everybody needs him, and he knows what matters. Yeah. So yeah, he'll even try to martyr people for what he does with his own marketing branch. So it was a fucked up episode because people were in all sorts of different insurance policies and were seen to be in various sorts of demographics and have certain estimates of their, you know, how much do you ever say that one person's life is, I couldn't do that. And it meant that, so there are, you know, it's not a question of, well, which act was the private company taking advantage of or fucking with. In their minds, they weren't. They were doing business with those that love both acts, the act for the crazy people and the act for the ones that were the normal people, normal crazy. But then because they were religious, no one could know for sure that they weren't knowingly and unlawfully and unconstitutionally ripping off both acts. The mistakes in judgment that could be made but ignored due to just merely assuming that religions like Freemasonry are true, while these two men rip off Niels Bohr, when none of them would have been intelligent enough to have thought like him, or have even debated Einstein for 20 seconds, if that's how they're interpreting the Bible still. But they seem to have genuine hopes for a real afterlife, and they seem to sense that people are signaling their radars and trying to contact them, when a citizen could really be trying to envision taking them to court or trying to get them charged. If you have a legal case to process against them, they will try to measure it beforehand, thinking you've seen. I'm almost certain that they have never really known what scams were potentially achievable by their Roger and Gary's means. It will always seem like a planned conspiracy that will be something like in a fiction movie. They won't understand why anyone would go to all the trouble. But if they then consider that, well, they've been disrespectful to whether you could take both the Human Rights Charter and the Mental Health Act into consideration at the same time, and they'll be offending both. They have to satisfy the definitions and all the terms. So if you try to accost them saying, are you using a radar that you're hiding, they'll say, are you trying to insult all these mentally ill people everywhere? No, you're trying to bring a 16th century church into the present and make it seem relevant to everyone secretly. Whatever private sector, private language, or private terms he thinks that you have to be loyal to
in order to understand him or understand a private agreement with him. Both of their definitions and understandings operatively of what constitutes your reach to them or your attempted access or request for their efforts don't require you to have summoned them by a letter in the mail or by a phone call or by an email or by a verbal request. So it is probably determined by their religious minds as well. Essentially, he will spend most of the interrogating time trying to find out what Bible pages you believe in before even thinking to ask if you've ever tried to instruct or teach ideals to anybody. Only reason that Toll is inclined to insist that Antichrist could be repressed Christians is because he is himself a Freemason. So his church starts in the 16th century, and in his mind he has to try to find Jesus Christ, the Christian Savior. But he's predatorial to that character but it's his gift to Lucifer. So he hasn't actually comprehended godlessness or unbelief. Deep down there's a Christian inside everyone in his mind that the person either has denied. He doesn't comprehend falsifying a church or a religious point of view. He thinks it has to be taken over by something that's closer to the true religion, which he thinks is Freemasonry. So he'll wonder if you've been, to the same settings as Jesus of Christ is said to go in the forged.
Simple, really, given what they've done. Unconstitutional. The two Freemasons, I suppose, can go off and imagine sucking my dick, but I won't imagine them doing it. I will just do my thing. Of course, nothing changes. But yeah, that can be their fantasy. It's not really mine. A fist fight is my interest. They're open to it. Morphine, Mighty Morphine, Power Rangers. So it was the Freemasons' new chance to come back, and with really high-tech, highly ethically developed, poignant points, concise points concerning the demographic-wide demand for etiquette needs to be active within most people, in the context of all time. And the stanza, each time someone believes what I say, I become a lie, to be a challenge that you question the source, question Manson, question my art, question all art, question the press. How much may they trivialize?
In, and an atheistic Chinese government rolled tanks over students, and they died.
Concerning the evangelical side of theism versus atheism debates, and activist evangelists for the Christian right. I would say I think that if they wanted their sermons to seem serious or compelling, they would only really draw teachings or ideas from the Gospel of Mark if they were to say that these were Jesus' teachings. But they would have to say these teachings may also be the byproduct of 37 years of hearsay. The other three Gospels, Matthew, Luke, and John. But I think you could have a say. Okay, sorry, we're back for a bit. So I've laid out the So you will think of Freemasonry as a church opposed to the Christian church, and indeed it seems that they themselves do think this as well. They think they've got it. But it's that same old theist church jingle where they go, well, each one is saying we're the right one, all the other churches are wrong. And it's a heckling field of babble that atheists, the godless, don't bother stooping to that sort of claim. We think you might as well say, yeah, there's a lot of insecurities attached to the suggestion that there are veracity to theistic claims. Is this it? Okay, and Buzz is here.
So following the provisions of a work space that's tantamount more or less to a minor back injury, which Roger would also avoid conversing about. To hear a charge from him that he thought I ideologically considered myself invincible, in any sense that would warrant potentially psychiatric intervention, I really realized I had informally trusted the wrong employer. I also started to think a bit about, and I've given more time to this thought, is whether, like, if he was would be that Roger go home and obtain an erection and then fuck his wife Maxine and then impregnate her. Then he can have a little junior who has no conflicts and is treated well. It's a bit like a medicine salesman just going berserk. But you see that element in his character. It's like, well, why don't you just return home and to your home and fuck your wife unsafely. Good luck, Roger. Good luck with that. I on a string. Wow. This is Fade to Grey by Jars of Clay. I might have to admit them as the winner of Christian bands. Christian bands, I think they got a handle on what's going on right about now in this period in history. I think that Jars of Clay are possibly the most impressive. I also think Prince Charles's ears grew out like radars, almost, because he wanted to listen to the ideas of pretty much anybody else. You got his mother saying, we're made in God's image because siblings fucked in the garden and made more babies. Charles, his cells couldn't stand it. So his ears sprung out like satellites. He's like, fuck, I can't bear to hear this. That's the main conclusion of Christianity, sadly, is that Elizabeth II isn't taking any dick right now, obviously. Yes. Look what your garden got you. I bailed out young.
My dear friend Mouse, it's been a long time since you became a mystery to find where you went. I intend to go forward doing more of what you would encourage me with, making of my creative ability. It's one thing I will never forget, your encouragement and advice in that. That's the main thinking of you.
Ironically, they're quite big on trying to impose this Masonic Religious Discrimination Act violation psychiatry shit on Canberrans, Australians potentially. Not sure if it's countrywide, but then of course at their conferences they celebrate Mama America. I saw them eat and destroy everything you stand for, while you were painting your face in kiss makeup. Gary Cans. Wipe your ass with the pharmacist code of ethics. Mason fag. Freemason fag. Freemason fag. You're a fag. Echo, Bravo, Delta, Charlie Tango, Gary Cans, you're a fag. Gary Cans, you're a fag. I would say to Roger Toll, if you want to consider yourself a researcher of the human mind at all, in any respect, kill not only your Freemason faith, but every type of theistic or supernatural faith. Any form of supernaturalism is instantly an assemblage of conflicts in and of itself. So the ideas you'll have for me won't be impressive until you've killed your faith, and your ability to study the human mind won't be impressive or helpful at all until you've killed your faith and everyone's faith in your mind. And then study the centuries after they made the Freemason Church. Study the 17th, 18th, 19th and 20th century movements in thought. Study Einstein and Niels Bohr. You really are unimpressive. I genuinely am calling you unimpressive. As have my associates.
As soon as Elizabeth Braden accosted me at the corner back of the store and said, "You're a child of God," my head flooded with visions of pedophiles not getting charged, and I would want to chase them instead of working for her. She also said house rules, so I wasn't aware if I could philosophically dispute her, but I wanted to fucking vomit, and it distracted me heavily from being able to do the invoicing accounts, and I'd say even my typical style of serving customers decayed, and my head was in a fight against God, of course. He's then there, suicidal, carrying his cross up the hill. So, reading Mark's text removed from Matthew, Luke, and John, we can start to see things like why these other scribes were holding this text of Mark's and using it as a basic framework to write down better versions, and better according to whom, the scribes didn't want to be put to an early death, and if they were close enough to Jesus' lifetime, they obviously understood that's what had happened. They had the text, so they quite well could have known what had happened. And yet what you see happen in these later Gospels is, in all three of them, Jesus is transmogrified he's transmogrified into what both these really different churches say. You find some degrees of diversity. The Freemason two pharmacists, Gary Kanza and Roger Toll, that founded Capital Chemists, they're actually unappreciated scientific geniuses. They're smarter than Professor Victor Stenger and Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr could ever have been. That's all because they're part of a secret Freemason church of some kind, and they have a better, superior insight. Like, they even worked out that Professor Stephen Hawking isn't actually in any sort of physically disabled state. He, at night time, he likes to get out of his wheelchair and is known to have perpetrated at least 400 North or South Korean rapes.
So once that news comes out from them, I suppose a lot of people are going to be surprised, because all this time we thought he was some wheelchair confined due to physical circumstances. But no, Roger Toll and Gary Cairns, they know what matters. That's why they put it on their billboards. So Canberra had better get with it. Capital chemist. And if Roger possibly and Gary haven't heard of words like metaphysics or epistemology, probably Roger's wife will have. She has the bookshop, and he thinks that chanting in a Masonic church is how he knows that he's got the right mind for social scientific projects. I'm not telling you that these two men are failures as healthcare professions. I'm telling you they can sell you band-aids and your scripts, obviously. I'm telling you they are terrible social scientists. They are ludicrous social scientists. And just think about them belonging to a church that withdraws into secrecy. Like, they can't even afford, on religious grounds, they can't even stand proud on a stage and tell the people of Canberra why they think their religious beliefs don't make for good toilet paper. They don't even know how to begin that speech. So how are they going to be adequate social scientists of any kind? But yeah, so the way I came to start to think about it is in terms of, in their mind, Lucifer, I think, is the vehicle. Like, so the Freemason Church has often, as you find with God, is like the teacher of certain morals in the theology of the Bible and in the Christian Church. In the Freemason Church, I think the story is that Lucifer defeats God. It means that therefore they've got two. It makes them duo-theists, or like.
But two or three popes ago, they came out and said that there was no heaven, there was no Lucifer. That was about 3 popes ago.
Well, look. Yeah, I mean, my former church had theologies about at some time they're saying, you know, God did defeat the devil, and Christ went to hell after the crucifixion and to fight off the devil. But now the devil's war, the devil's contest has been lost. When I left church and then reassessed. Nowadays, everybody want to talk, like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. Just a bunch of radar shit, and motherfuckers act that they forgot Roger Toll's gay. Fagped pred gay. The worst. The worst kind of person to tiptoe between gay and gay is happy. But he could take his definition of gay, which I think is offensive to gays, which is you're gay because you had a moment, a romantic one, between your mother during maturity. Tell that to the gay community and see what happens. Roger. Because nowadays, everybody want to talk. They got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. Just a bunch of radar shit. And motherfuckers act like they forgot that Toll's gay. So then, yeah, you could raise questions like, well, if you are distressed, then go home, turn on the TV while distressed. And then you go to the bathroom. Does that mean when you're on the toilet you have toilet paper psychosis, or toilet bowl psychosis, or toilet porcelainosis? If you go distressed to the kitchen, do you have kitchen ptosis? No, it's just he's pretty much a correlative dweeb in that regard. And it's that rudimentary question of, well, what is the problem? You know, every customer that goes into a chemist anywhere gets the courtesy of being asked that question. So, you know,
It'd be like a customer coming to me saying, "Oh, I've got a grazed knee. Can I get some band-aids?" And I go, "You don't have a grazed knee. You have Nintendo Game Boy osmosis, ptosis, psychosis, neurosis." And then, hold them down and inject them. I'll go grab the most lucrative drug in the store and hold you down on the floor here and inject you with it. Well, friends on Facebook, I run every sort of keep the peace check. Do you know when to back off check? And the thing about religious nutcases is, if they pull off a scheme or a scam or a series of potential crimes that they can conceal, the religious element of their, how would you say it, their conscience, it feeds on the fact that it hasn't been caught or exposed yet. So, if this right-wing dipshit, it's very simple. If he's casing you, transmit your essential data from areas outside of the main suburbs of Canberra, go to places like, other states, maybe WA, Melbourne. While you're there, I've checked this over and over. Transmit as much data as you feel like you need to. By the time you come back to Canberra, his whole checking process will be oblivious to anything you've exchanged outside of the ACT. But I'm getting ready to feed the most calculated. He can always fall back on his religion to say that even if someone died, at least it was in his ultimate cause of trying to help. And they were just part of the weak, so they died, and that's the way that it goes. The weak will perish. It's a common idea in the religious criminal. The thing about the world we live in is that there can be people like that that just muster enough power in a suburb to kill about 4 to 5 innocent men or women before getting caught by the local feds. And then there are men who think exactly like that own private sector companies that have boosted and bolstered a mythos in the public eye through commercial success and slogans. It's not wrong. The difference is that one has more lawyers and insurance options than the other. Both should be getting the fuck smashed out of them, so I'll have more about that for you when I return from the States.